If you don't believe in governance and you don't believe in science, you don't want to do anything, and you don't have to because you don't have the data that you accept. So we're in a very critical place. I yearn for other Republican presidents. While we may have disagreed on many points, at least we had a shared commitment to the governance of our country.
House Speaker Nancy Pelosi there once again blasting the president's response to the coronavirus. The speaker's comments come as Congress prepares to debate the next virus relief package. And that new proposal comes amid, of course, a surge in infections across nearly 40 states over the past week. Joining us to discuss is Doug Wead, a presidential historian and former advisor to President George H.W. Bush, also the author of Inside Trump's White House, The Real Story of His Presidency, on your screen there. And Doug, speaking of looking into Trump's White House, it seems as though everyone has an opinion on how to do a better job when it comes to battling the coronavirus, including Speaker Pelosi. What's your analysis of how the president's been dealing with COVID-19 in the U.S.?
He's the perfect guy for this moment because he's non-ideological. So it's an emergency moment where he's had to use public funds that some Republicans would hesitate to do. And yet he's unleashed the private labs that Obama kept stymied with regulations and all kinds of FDA rules. He's allowing them to pursue a vaccine. I would just say that Nancy Pelosi's idea that this is an unusual president and under normal circumstances we get along with Republican presidents is pretty far-fetched. They called George W. Bush Hitler, and Ronald Reagan, who's one of the greatest presidents who ever lived, even by historical Democratic professors, his speeches to the nation were bracketed by news media and Democratic critics who would tell us, here's what he's going to say, and it's a lie. And then after he'd give the speech, they'd say, here's what he said that was wrong, and it's a lie. So, yes, it's worse than it's ever been. But the Democrats have always criticized Republican presidents, and Republicans have always criticized Democrat presidents.
Well, thank you for that history reminder for those who might not recall that there's always been some tension. We appreciate that. Also, Speaker Pelosi urging the president to tap the emergency powers to meet medical equipment and testing needs, warning that neither schools nor the economy could reopen safely until those basic needs are met. And we've heard President Trump, really give these decision-making powers to the governor and local leaders as well. What more do you think he could potentially do here? What more is Speaker Pelosi really implying?
Well, the president's not going to please Nancy Pelosi, and I don't think he's trying. I mean, once again, to offer a little bit of perspective in history, the Democrats in 1968 promoted a book by Paul Ehrlich, a professor at Stanford University, that said in the 1970s, hundreds of millions of people would starve to death in the world. Tens of millions of Americans would die of starvation. That was a bestseller in 1968. The Democrats promoted it. I thought of that this week when on Monday, Joe Biden said, we have 7 years left. 7 years and the end of the world because of global warming. So, yes, Nancy Pelosi says just science, please. But these debates have always been driven by emotion, whether it's the 14th century pandemic or the 21st century pandemic. It's emotion, not science.
Well, okay, speaking of emotion here and maybe even some drama, President Trump trying to put a little distance between himself and Peter Navarro after the trade advisor wrote an op-ed in USA Today trashing Dr. Anthony Fauci's guidance on the virus. Listen to this.
Well, he made a statement representing himself. He shouldn't be doing that. No, I have a very good relationship with Anthony. Look, they're all on the same team. We're all in the same team, including Dr. Fauci. I have a very good relationship with Dr. Fauci, and we're all in the same team. We want to get rid of this mess that China sent us.
And in case you missed the headline, here's a little bit of what Navarro wrote, saying, quote, Anthony Fauci has been wrong about everything I have interacted with him on. Doug, when you're seeing this play out, of course, members of the same administration here, is this normal? Have we seen this before? Is this common? What do you think?
Yeah, it's common, and there's always contradictions. And in science, there's contradictions, as there was with hydroxychloroquine The Democrats you don't hear them talking about that anymore. They're pulling back on that because their study was not scientific and the authors withdrew their names from it. So sure, and Navarro had his point. I mean, Fauci said, you need to wear a mask. And then Fauci said, no, mask won't make any difference. Then we find out he's trying to save those masks for the health workers. Yes, they do make a difference. So the president's being nice. He's trying to get along with everybody. But again, the hypocrisy, the last Yale-Harvard football game, the students rushed the infield at halftime to stop it because they're saying, what is this? We're paying a fortune to go to Harvard. Our professors say the world will end in 10 years, and you sign your football coach to a multi-million-dollar, multi-year contract. What is going on? It's so ridiculous. And you're sitting on billions of dollars of endowment funds that could go to relieve global warming. So there's a lot of hypocrisy here, Emma. It's quite an interesting
I know. We try to point it out as often as we see it. And Doug Wead, we appreciate your insight and your analysis as well. Thanks for coming on today. Have a great weekend.
You too, Emma.
Thanks.
Thank you.
All right.